Hi, Alan Cox here. In part two of our eDiscovery series, we talked about conducting searches and content searches in eDiscovery. And this is great if you need just to gather quick information, maybe export that data. But what if you need to take that to another level and do more of an involved investigation? Maybe that involves other people. Well, that is where content cases and eDiscovery cases come into play, because with cases, it kind of packages up a content search, a review set where you can look at the data that has been pulled from that search query, and then do any number of things, annotate that data, redact sections of that data, etc. Export, as well as put on eDiscovery holds. And so that's what we're going to look at today in part three. And our final part around eDiscovery is creating cases, holds, and review sets. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's get started. All right, now let's get into the part of eDiscovery that is more for ongoing or longer type investigations, and that's where we might create a case inside of eDiscovery. So in our last video, we talked about just creating searches, and those are great if you just need to do some administrative checks, investigations, some exports, things like that. But if you're actually going to do a longer term investigation, or need to put something on hold, or actually kind of look at some of the documents that have been retrieved through that search, and we will still use a search, as I mentioned, all things in eDiscovery really start with a content search. And so that's what we're going to take a look at. And so here we're in Purview, and we're going to go back over to Solutions and eDiscovery. Now, if we have an existing search, remember we were working on this search that we had done on the last video, where we were searching for Mia and Liam's email and instant message communication within the last 90 days. Now, you cannot take an existing search and add it to a case. They live on their own. So anytime you have a case, everything in that case is built for that case. And so as such, we would need to create a new search. And all of it really starts with just applying a case and adding a case. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to do, I'm going to do, let's do Liam email investigation. And so I'm not going to give any time constraints on this one here, and we click advanced settings here, and this is where we can add some premium options if you're licensed for that. It does require compliance E5 or Microsoft Purview Premium, which is basically compliance E5 now, or Microsoft 365 E5. Then you get this premium version, and basically you get some AI capabilities, you get search by file, sensitivity types, and all of that. So I do have that. I don't know that we're going to leverage as much of that, but I'm going to leave that on. And anyway, we're just going to create this case. So we're just going to create the case, and all of this is doing is just creating the container, if you will, that's going to hold everything else that's going to be part of that case. So we see that we have this case being built, and once that is built, we should see other things that we can do with the settings. Now, while that's there, okay, so there's our setting, our case that we've created, and we'll talk about searches again, very similar to what we've done, but we'll do another one just so we can work with it. We'll talk about hold policies, review sets, and exports. We did talk about exports here, and of course, so all this we're going to get into. But I do want to draw your attention up here to to case settings. And in case settings here, we can go in and look at the case details. Wait for this to open up. All right, while that's loading, let's go on to permissions. So in permissions here, I can add users who can access the case and what they can do. So if I want to add like someone from that is eDiscovery manager to a particular case, I can, or a role group, right? So anybody that's an eDiscovery manager or anybody that's in any particular role group, I can add them as to manage this particular case. Okay, let's go search case details. This case details is just going to, I don't know why that's not loading, but it's just going to give us some really basic information about the case, but just not much. Yeah, we've got eDiscovery Premium on, what the name is. If we have a case number, if we're doing some sort of case number identification, then you can certainly add that there. And of course, under actions, we get the option to close and delete this case. And so we're going to go to permissions. We talked about that a little bit. And these are just, again, these are case settings. So we can say near duplicates, set document similarity threshold at 65%. Just kind of what's our search gonna look like? Is there anything we need to minimum number of words? And so anyway, just some setting there. As far as review sets, allow grouping of review sets. And so we can click on this article here that talks a little bit about that. Anyway, it's kind of grouping conversations and so forth. Let's just pop out here real quick. Just take a look. Makes it easier to find and view related items by grouping them together in list review. So basically, we can group by conversations. We'll see this. So if we have similar conversations or conversation threading, then we'll be able to look at that, and it just makes sense in the review case. Oh, we just do allow grouping here, but in any case, that's some of the case settings here. Now, it all starts with a search. So let's go in and let's just do a search here. I'm going to say Liam email search. Okay, we can give it some sort of meaningful description here, but otherwise we're just going to create this search. So that's just the search, and now it's going to ask us for what our query is going to be. And so I'm going to drop out of here. We're going to add sources. We're talking Liam. Okay, we've been down this road before, so none of this is really that much different. Liam Anderson, and I'm just people only, and I'm only looking for mailboxes at this point, and I'm going to save and close that. So we should see Liam Anderson and just exchange icon pop up here. We can, of course, add direct reports, managers, if we kind of want to, if we think the investigation is related to, other people that Liam may have direct contact with. But in any case, we're going to do this. Now we're going to add the conditions here, and we're just going to go, so message kind, and we're going to go to email. That's what we're looking for. Message kind, and we really, we can add, and we're not going to go in there. We can do some key QL. We can do all the keywords and all of these different things. We're not really going to go into the search parameters. We talked a little bit about search in our last video. It's not any different here, but I want to get as much information as we can. So we're just going to say, I'm just looking for any email, right? At this point. And so at this point, I can go in and I can say, do I want to, well, when I go in to run the query, it's going to ask me if I want the samples and all of this. And we've talked about this. Do you include categories? I'm not going to do a sample report. We're really going to put this into a review set where we'll be able to look at all of it. But I'm going to go ahead and run this query. And so this is just going to run, and it's a pretty simple search in this case. I'm only looking for pretty much any email, no time constraints, no communicating with this person or this person. Literally taking it, all of the email for Liam, which again, as a demo environment shouldn't be a ton. When this completes, I will pop back. I'll pause the video and I'll be right back, and we'll talk about, once this is finished, what we can do next. So I'll pause the video and we'll be right back. All right, that took just a few minutes. So we see that in our statistics here, we have 34 matches, 2.6 megabytes, one location search, exchange online or a mailbox, and data source. And then top communication participants, just some statistics around that. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do is we'll talk about review sets. So I'm going to click in here and I'm going to add this to a review set. So review sets are just where we're going to add the collection of data so that we can what was returned. So these 34 emails that were returned, this is where we can go in and review them, look at them, mark them up, redact them, do any number of things we can do with those. And so we're gonna I'm gonna call this here Liam email case review set, right? Just something that makes sense to you. Include index items that match the search query. And so we can do partially indexed items that may not match the query. And when we're talking OneDrive and SharePoint, we can do a latest version or different versioning. How much do we want to grab from that? Only items. Now, when it comes to folder search, and this is kind of interesting, if you're doing like SharePoint, OneDrive, and you're doing folder search because it is a category or it is a query item. So only items that match the search query. So for something inside the folder that matches the query also, it would pick that up. However, you could do all items in the folder, so match the folder, but then anything inside that folder that whether it matches a query or not, it would grab it. But that's again relevant to Exchange and SharePoint and OneDrive. And for list, we can use any list attachments that we want to make gather and all of that. So for messages related to items from mailbox and Exchange Online, full conversations for all of those. So this is where we can get some of all of the conversations that we are having that are kind of grouped together. Access links if there's cloud attachments, etc. With the latest version of that link. And so organize conversations into HTML transcript. So I'm just going to add this search now into a review set. And this is where we can actually kind of work with the data that has been returned. And so we're going to add this to the review set. And we'll wait for this to finish here. And then we can always go to Process Manager to kind of see where we're at and what's being done in the background. Okay, so you shall see it's accessing the review set now. Let's look at the Process Manager, see what's going on. It's adding to review, and this may take just a minute. It should not take that long. So we've got this review set here, and while we're doing that, we can take the results and add them to an export. We did talk about exports. We won't go into export a whole lot. It's not really any different. And so we can go in and look at any exports that we have currently. We don't have any at this point, but if I go back to the case, let's just go back to the case here. And open up this case, and here's where I can go in and do we don't have any exports going on right now. That would be related to the search. If I go into the search and export to search, don't. But right now let's go back to the review set and see what's going on with that. We'll get into some of the whole policy. So the review set has 4.27 megabytes. Refresh. We're going to pop in here. We're going to take a look. So this is where we can go in and we can, in this review set, this is where we can see what has been, what are we talking about from our search query, right? This is what brings it back. And I just want to cover a few things in, or, what brings it to our attention. I want to bring a few things here. And most of this is just like system messages perhaps, but let's just jump on, one right here. So there's Mia Rodriguez is trying to, it's probably some sort of chat in Teams. Yeah, but it sends, of course, that email, right, that you get. So here I am. Now with this, I can go in and I can do any number of things. I can go in, look at some overview. I can look at some analytics on this, show some different reports. I can go in and query actions here. This is where we can add it to another review set. I can export just this item. I can tag this, and don't have any particular tag. You can go in and create some tags there. More often than not, where I see folks doing things, let's see, let me drop into here under annotate, right? And so we can go in, and now I can go in and say, I can draw on this. I can add an area of redaction. Maybe there's a section in here that should be redacted, right? And then so from that, we can, we can go in and make sure that that always stays redacted here. We can download this as a PDF file or download it as the original, show this in a new window, view or update any notes. And so then I can go over here and I can say, essentially commit redactions to PDF. Okay, so what it's going to do now is it's basically going to save that redaction so that when this is exported and it becomes a PDF file or whatever, that redaction is going to stay the same. If I were to go in here and go back, we see that is redacted. Whereas if I go here, for example, and I go and I annotate, let's see if this email pops up here, and I go here and I want to, and I want to redact, something here, it's redacted. But if I pop out of here, and once I leave this review set, this will no longer be redacted. I've not committed that redaction. But anyway, it's but that's where we can do a lot of that. And now the redaction, the markups, the so we can go in and I can look at this in a couple different ways as plain text versus just exactly how it came in the email. So that is a review set. And so it just allows us to kind of look at what's happening here, see what we've got, and so as far as that goes, any exports that we have, again, we do not have. Now, if we go back to search and let's talk about hold policies here. So hold policy, this is just where we can create a new policy. Let's talk about this. I'm going to say Liam email case hold. Okay. And so basically I'm creating this hold policy for what do I want to put on hold. And if I want to put kind of the same thing, again, it's a new thing. I cannot go in and put it it's kind of like a search. Think of it kind of as a search. So if I want to go in here and do a Liam, and I'm basically, but this time everything that we're coming up with is we can apply the hold to. So it's not I didn't spell it right. Liam, there we go. All right, Liam. We're gonna do mailboxes only. What you could do is just all sources in this case. Mailbox only, save and close. Let's see what comes up here. So it should just bring Liam Anderson. So if you're all dealing with a case, then you don't need to add anybody else to that, right? And so, so condition builder, we can do, again, message kind, email. If I want to make sure that all email is on hold, then that's what we're doing. So we're building a search query with visual condition filtering experience, blah, 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 and use keywords, language, copy and paste, KQL if you have that. But again, message kind, email, boom, we're applying a hold. Okay, that's it. So we are going to let that hold. And what does that mean? So basically, if Liam were to go into an email, and delete it while this hold is in place, then the email may appear to be gone, but it's under hold. It's not going to actually go anywhere. So until the case is lifted. Once the case is lifted, then the hold will go away, and we'll look at that here shortly. So waiting for this hold to finish up. It's loading some summaries and some information here, but it's basically doing much like it would a search. And so so we shall get back to that in just a second. We'll let that spin up here. Now, again, if I'm here and I'm in this search, I can go in and create the hold here. Okay. So it'll create a hold with the same data source as the current search. The query is not included. So you still have to, if I were to do it here, I still have to go in and create the query that I was doing, which I already did, right? So we can go back to our hold. Let's see what our hold's on. We see that it is on. Okay. We'll look at some of the details here. All right, one location, one data source. Okay, it's telling us what's on hold here. We can download a report for this. Policy actions, I can go up here and retry the policy. I can turn it off or delete the policy. Okay, but we can see that we have an email case hold that is currently on. And so so this is how we pretty much get our do our investigation. If we were to go to our let's take a look at this review set here. Let's see if there's anything else we want to cover here, because once you have this review set, we can go in and we can now export this out, and it just creates an export just like we did with other exports. And then it'll show up as an export here. And so that's one way we can package that all up if we need to send that to outside lawyers or something to that effect. So but once we have all of that, if we were to go in here and let's just close this case. Okay. And we'll take a look and see what happens when we close this case. All right, it failed because all the hold policies have to be turned off or deleted prior to closing the case, and we have an active hold policy. Okay, so we know that, so we have to go in here. Let's go into our case and let's go into our hold policy. And we have to lift the policy. We have to lift the hold if we're going to close the case or remove the case. It will not allow. So we're going to go into the hold policy here. We're just going to go in. Didn't necessarily have to go in here, but we're going to go policy actions. And I'll just let's take a look at the hold policy. Okay, policy actions. I can turn off the policy, or I can delete the policy altogether. I'm just going to turn off policy. Turn it off. And it shows in progress because it was in progress of still in progress of that hold. But in any case, it should show us here that this policy will be turned off or disabled. Yeah. Okay, it's showing that it is off. Let's see if we can close this case now. We can delete or close, but let's close this case and see. And it just tells us the policies need to be turned off or removed. All right, so now our case is closed. Okay. And so that is it. We can remove this policy. We can do any number of things that we want if we want to keep those policies there, or keep them so that we can, because we can't actually go in and reopen the case. Okay. So we can go in and we can reopen this case. But reopening the case won't automatically restore any holds that were in effect when the case was closed. You'll need to turn on those holds again after. Do we want to reopen the case? We're not going to, but just know that that is there. And when we do, is not going to just reinstate that hold. We have to go into any holds that were on and reapply them and just turn them on. That's one reason why I like to disable cases or holds or turn them off the policy rather than just remove them so that they're there. So that is a little bit eDiscovery cases, some exports, review sets, and holds inside eDiscovery. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I thank you for watching.